All right, moving on. This one's pretty interesting. And honestly, this next one is, I think, kind of important for a certain group of people, and I'll explain why. So there was an announcement last month that I think is kind of a big deal, that the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, has just approved the first medication for obstructive sleep apnea. And it's called Zepbound. And I know you guys are super smart, so you guys are going to tell me what kind of medication this is right now.
Diabetic medicine?
You're right.
Oh, is it weight loss medicine?
Yes, it is, Sarah. You nailed it. Yes. I knew you could do it. I hate to put you on the spot, but I knew you were going to come through. Yeah, good job, Sarah. You nailed it. Yeah, it's actually a GLP-1 agonist. In fact, it's tirzepatide. Zepbound is just the trade name for the generic drug tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro. But because it's done for this, they give it a new name.
It's just the same thing, different title.
Yeah, exactly right. So the FDA has approved Zepbound, which is tirzepatide, which is a GLP-1 agonist, which I don't know if we've gone a single month without talking about GLP-1 agonists on the show, for moderate to severe sleep apnea that's with obesity. Did we talk about sleep apnea on this show before? Oh, we did with the girl, the doctor, Reddy, that came by, remember?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know how big, did we do a deep dive on sleep apnea or not really?
Not really.
We may have to talk about that some. All right, I'm going to give you the highlights.
Okay.
This is the highlights. So sleep apnea is basically when you are sleeping and your airway obstructs. And there's a lot of things that it can cause bad for you. Like there's a lot of risks that come with it. Cardiovascular risks, hypertension, heart disease, and stroke, type 2 diabetes, depression, anxiety, fatigue, and an overall increased mortality risk for people who suffer.
It doesn't allow you to fully rest.
Correct.
Fully just shut down.
Yeah, exactly right. And one of the biggest risks overall for obstructive sleep apnea is obesity. So when you put 2 and 2 together, it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. That you might use a GLP-1 agonist to treat obstructive sleep apnea. So tirzepatide is one of the newer generations of GLP-1 agonists. It has the classic effects of slowing gastric emptying, which means it slows down how quickly your stomach empties. It also stimulates the receptors that make you feel full in your brain. And the other thing it does is it enhances lipolysis. It encourages your body to break down fat. That's the one thing that this one does that semaglutide does not, and why it's a little bit more effective. And this drug has been shown to dramatically decrease weight.
And you have to have sleep apnea to get this one.
Well, and that's what I'm going to get around to is that, so I'll just kind of cut to the chase here, and we'll recap it at the end. But if you are somebody that's overweight and you want to get this medication, because it's now FDA approved for sleep apnea, if you're overweight, the likelihood of you having sleep apnea is high. If you went to get tested for sleep apnea and you can prove that you had it and you're overweight, you probably could get your insurance to pay for tirzepatide, which that drug's expensive.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think that this is such a big deal because, you can go, we have semaglutide. We don't make it at my office, but we have a contract with a pharmacy that does compounded, and we have a ton of people that are on it. But, if you want the brand name tirzepatide, that stuff's super expensive. It's $1,500 a month or something. But if you are, if you're truly overweight and you also have sleep apnea, which is likely if you are overweight, it's very possible that you might get your insurance company to pay for it.
Yeah.
And which is I think is a big deal. I think there's a lot of people out there that might, want to try these medications. Either they just don't have the means at all, or they don't realize they can get, versions of these that are compounded. And so I do think that this is it's
good.
It's kind of important. Yeah. I've talked about GLP-1 agonists in the past. I'm a big fan of them. I've done tons of research on them because they've been in the news so much, and pretty much all of the news is good. So I always see online, because it's so funny. Have you guys noticed that on social media there's kind of contingent of people that are hating on the GLP-1 agonists? Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
Trey, have you seen that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think that it's funny. I think that there's a couple groups of people in there that are hating on these things. I think there are people out there who just don't trust pharma in general. You know,
Yeah.
anything that pharma puts out, they're going to be like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah, they're more focused on like the negative side effects instead of the positive ones.
Correct. Yeah, I think that there are those people out there. I think there are some of the GLP-1 haters. I also think there's some people out there that maybe feel a little bit threatened that, you know, now more people can be fit or, you know, have the body they want. You know, it's like somebody like maybe works out a ton and they're like, well, I worked really hard for this, and this person took a medication, and you know, of course they're not going to look the same. But I think
yeah, it's probably the same way people like men or whoever bodybuilders feel whenever they find out somebody's taking like a steroid.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah, they're doing it not naturally. Yeah. But I've been a fan of these drugs. You know, the reason I got around to that is because you see the people that are hating on these drugs be like, oh, any day now they're going to find out that these drugs, you know, have these bad side effects or whatever. Well, these drugs have been out forever. The first GLP-1s were released in like 2003, I think. Of course, they were released for diabetes, and it took them a while to figure out that people were losing weight on them. But they've been given to people for weight loss for over a decade now.
Yeah.
So it's not like the research is not there. There's tons of research on these things. And for the most part, it's all good. You know, they do have side effects, mostly related to GI stuff, such as, you know, nausea, vomiting, and constipation.
But I think the positives, like,
oh my gosh, the
completely
positives are
outweigh.
amazing.
Like, they just reduce chronic illnesses.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, without
much.
question, because so many chronic illnesses are directly related to, you know, being heavy.
Yeah, and that's going to increase, like, everybody's life expectancy.
Yeah. I mean, they should literally put this stuff in the water. Not really, but you get my drift. And it's been shown, there's actually research out there on sleep apnea. So there was a study of people taking tirzepatide that had obstructive sleep apnea. And if they took tirzepatide for a year, 50% of the patients had 0 symptoms of sleep apnea after 1 year. It's pretty crazy. I mean, that's, you know, it's not everybody, but of the other 50%, some people probably had big improvements and maybe not just completely, you know, gone away. So I think this is good. It's now that I see this, it's like, oh yeah, of course this was going to happen. I'm kind of surprised that the FDA, you know, approved that. Although that doesn't necessarily mean insurance will cover it. I guess that is. Although, does insurance have to cover it if it's FDA approved? I would think so.
I don't know.
They'll probably make it hard. I don't know why they would, though. You would think that insurance companies would want people to take these medications because it does eliminate chronic illnesses.
Yeah.
You know, I bet we'll see. I bet we'll see insurance companies in the near future be a little bit more lenient about allowing people on these medications. I think if you look at the long-term data on it, they would save money. Not that I care if an insurance company saves money or not, but they care.
Yeah.
And if they're saving money, then they're making more money. I bet that they'll start to approve these for more and more people.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know if we're going to ever go a month without talking about these drugs.
Yeah,
it's like the new Prozac, or, you know, what was before that? The new Botox even.
Yeah, I was about to say Botox.
Yeah, everyone's talking about these. They have been for years. It's like it's not slowing down.